afternoon, Cherries fans, and thank you for joining us for this latest opposition preview. After our win at the weekend against Huddersfield, where we won 5-0, our next visit with fans in the stadium is against a Wycombe team who have picked up some decent results, however, do sit currently in the relegation zone. With me, I have a very special guest, somebody who presented BBC Breakfast between 2001 and 2016 and can now be heard on Classic FM between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. It is a pleasure to welcome onto Back of the Net, Bill Turnbull.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Bill. So
Good.
Thank you for joining us. But firstly, I just wanted to speak about your career in the media and the current situation that we find ourselves in. So do tell us a little bit more about that, about BBC Breakfast and moving to Classic FM.
Well, I was a presenter on Breakfast for 15 years. And before that, I was a reporter and a foreign correspondent, which is really what I consider myself to be, a reporter and a journalist more than anything. But after 15 years, I reached the ripe old age of 60 and thought it was time to throw in the towel, which I was very happy to do, and left the BBC. And the mad fools at Classic FM gave me a job on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, which is fantastic because we play really, really lovely music to a lovely audience. And I just sit there and enjoy it and chat to people really for 3 hours. And then sometimes, certainly before lockdown, during the football season, I'd come down from Suffolk, which is where I'm speaking to you from now. And I'd stay overnight, do the show on a Saturday, get on the train out to Wycombe, see the game at Adams Park, come back, do the Sunday show and come home. It was a really, really good routine, which has sadly been rather disrupted. However, I did see Wycombe play at Adams Park just last Saturday when we lost 2-1. A result that should have been 2-2, but bad officiating once again did us in.
Well, it's good to have fans back in the stadium, as you mentioned then. What sort of advantage do you think that's going to have for Wycombe moving forwards?
Well, it makes a huge difference, I think, as it would to Bournemouth too, to have any fans back in the stadium, but particularly if you've only got home fans. You know, you're going to get some noise, and it's all going to be supportive mostly, so long as you're playing all right. It just makes a difference to the spirit of the place. It really, really does. And the sooner we can get more people back, and people being able to go to away games, will be better. I think that's going to be some time coming. But you know, football is in danger of dying. A lot of clubs are going to go out of business in the next few months or in the next year unless something gets sorted. It's a terrible price to pay. I mean, terrible price to pay everywhere, but sport has suffered. Football is suffering very badly. So the more people we can get back into the game, the faster, the better.
I completely agree with you. And hopefully before long, with the vaccine now being rolled out, hopefully we can get some full houses because, as you mentioned, especially with clubs like the clubs that we support, the smaller teams in the division, you know, it does have such an effect. Now, one thing, of course, that is quite similar between Bournemouth and Wycombe is the rise that you've had through the leagues as well. So as recent as 2014, you did have a bit of a great escape of your own. Has managed to propel Wycombe through the leagues to the Championship where they are today. Do tell us a little bit about your rise to the Championship.
Well, it's a fairy tale story, really. Last day of the season, 2014, Wycombe were, I think, bottom of the table, or certainly in the bottom three, maybe not bottom. And they were playing Torquay away. It was a bank holiday weekend, and I remember, to my eternal shame, that I didn't go because I thought it's all the way to Torquay. And I don't want to see them get relegated again. I've seen it happen a couple of times before, and it's a really sad, horrible event. And even if they win, they're going to go down because Mansfield only need to draw at home, you know, to get a point and stay up. So what's the point in going down? So I was not one of the faithful many who went down. Wycombe then went on to beat Torquay 3-0. waiting for the final whistle. Bristol Rovers, it was rather. Bristol Rovers were the other team we were competing against. And Rovers only needed a draw against Mansfield. They lost 1-0. They hit the bar. That was the margin. One goal would have made the difference. And they went down, and Wanderers stayed up. And that was a turning point. I mean, that made people really believe in the Gareth Ainsworth project, if you like. And thereafter, things got much better. Gareth really matured as a manager. Previously, he'd been sort of a player manager and one of the lads, and he said, right, I've got to separate now. This has got to change. And he got to understand the game a lot more, game management, I think. And we started winning games, not in a particularly pretty way, but we didn't mind. We were just sort of making progress. And we got up into League One, not even on the last day of the season, away at Chesterfield, when nobody was really expecting it. And then only, 2 seasons in League One, and the dream started. And we were, Christmas Day last year, 7 points clear at the top of League One. We'd never been such dizzy heights. We were getting, sort of vertigo being up there. And I remember meeting the new owner, and Rob Couig. And I said, you need to understand, Rob, for us, the dream is already coming true. It doesn't really matter what happens now. We have hit the top of the table, little knowing what was going to happen next. Then, of course, we had lockdown and the playoffs, and we got into the playoffs, sort of controversially by virtue of goal difference, which 1 or 2 other clubs were not happy about. But come the playoff, there was no doubting which was the better side of the 4 to go through. From the opening minutes away at Fleetwood, when Nnamdi Offabor scored, I think in the first or second minute, we were on we were just bashing it. It was fantastic. And then the second home game again, won without too much trouble. Wembley then against Oxford United. Well, to be honest, Oxford I thought were the better side that night. I was very privileged to be there. One of very few sort of civilians, if you like, who got in. But the gods of football smiled on us that night, and we went up, and it was the most incredible night of sport, for me personally, I've ever seen. And since then, I've come to the conclusion, I think, that when you are supporting a more modest club, shall we say, I wouldn't say a smaller club, a more modest club, you might turn up every season and think, why do I do this? What's the point? Where are we going? It's the same old stuff, win, lose, frustration, travel, cold, blah, 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 all that sort of thing. And it's stories like Wycombe's that make you think, yeah, dreams can come true. And our dream came true that night. And we're living the dream this season. Win, lose, or draw, stay up, go down, doesn't matter. This is the experience that none of us ever thought we would ever see. It's fantastic.
And you mentioned there Nnamdi Offabor, who is actually with ourselves.
Yeah. You should have kept him. You should have let him stay with us, to be honest. He's much better off in the quarters, really. He was happy. He was happy with us,
But he's been a fantastic player when he's actually made an appearance for ourselves. His time has been limited at Bournemouth, but at the same time, he's such a talent.
Yeah.
And how much of an effect did he have on the Wycombe team before and during that playoff run? Of course, you mentioned about the Fleetwood.
Yeah. Well, it struck me when I first saw him, he was a solid midfield player. Like, he was tall. He had this really funny body shape. He's almost sort of stooped. But when he got on the ball, he was a playmaker. And you don't get those in midfield very often these days. You get sort of stoppers, and you get people who are either sort of attacking midfielders or who are defensive midfielders who are sort of going to break up play. Nnamdi's not like that as far as I can see. He gets the ball, he can deliver a perfect pass. He just sees things. He's a lovely sort of strategist to have on the pitch. And as I mentioned, that opening goal against Fleetwood was relatively simple. Somebody crossed the ball into him. He was just outside the penalty area. I'm not even sure he took a touch. I don't know. And bam, it was in the back of the net. And that was the sort of the starter's pistol for the road to Wembley. And I think we were 2 goals up within 15 minutes. I mean, we ended up winning 4-1 that game.
Yeah.
And it was Nnamdi who set us on that road.
He's an incredible talent. And the one thing I noticed from the Wycombe team, because I watched the playoff final, was the amount of spirit and passion that the side had. You know, they were fighting for the shirt. And one big player for Wycombe is Adebayo Akinfenwa.
Yes.
How much of an impact has he had?
Well, you're talking big, literally, in stature, but also in spirit. He's a real leader. I mean, there are the Wycombe team is known for it's what they call its generals. So Matt Bloomfield's the team captain, but there are a number of players throughout the squad who are also considered to be sort of guys who are leaders. Bayo is one of them. Joe Jacobson is another. Dominic Gape is another, and the Beast as well. And they can guide players, but Bayo, he's wonderful because he just leads everybody. And I've seen him at games when he's not been playing. I saw him once when he was, I think he was suspended, and it was a couple of seasons ago, and he went on the pitch before the game and had a chat with a couple of the younger players for about 5 minutes, just giving him a pep talk and saying, I don't know what he was saying, but you could see them sort of really appreciating what he had to say. And that's the kind of guy he is. He has, a lot to give on the pitch, but a lot to give off the pitch. And there is this immense team spirit at Wycombe. And there are no big-time Charlies. We can't afford big-time Charlies. So everybody has to buy into the project before they get taken on at Adams Park. And that is really, really important.
And Gareth Ainsworth's been a fantastic manager. Are you fearful that he may end up getting poached by another club at all at any point?
Well, last season or 2 seasons ago, you might have thought that in League One. But now that we're in the Championship, you think, well, why, how? Who's going to do that? I mean, why would you want to leave Wycombe after such a journey to go where? Somewhere else in the Championship? I don't think so. Premier League? I'd be surprised. I'm not sure he's their cup of tea. He says himself, people have told me he needs to get a haircut before. Ditch the rock and roll look, that sort of thing. So we're very pleased that he keeps it long. And we should also mention Richard Dobbo, his sidekick, who's been hugely important as well. They are very much a team and they work together. But Gareth is the guy who embodies that spirit. I remember as a player, I used to meet him once or twice before a match, and he said, well, Bill, I'm going to give it everything, going to try really, really hard, I'm going to do it. And he really meant it. And he instills that in his players. And they leave what they may lack in talent against other sides, they make up for in effort. And they leave everything out there on the pitch. It's harder this season because there are so many more midweek games. I don't know how that happened. I think it's the international breaks or something, but every single week there's a midweek game. You think, well, what's that all about? How do you recover? Well, you have to have more bodies in your squad. But you've got to remember, at the beginning of last season, there were only 9 players on the books at Wycombe Wanderers. I mean, the journey has been quite extraordinary. And thanks, I should say, to the Couigs. So our new American owners from Louisiana, New Orleans, who are really sort of actually decent, gracious people, very likable, have got the right ideas about how to run a football club. They love the club. They know that the fans love the club and love them, and it's sort of a very tender thing. And they're right in it. They're really buying into it. They're not going to, well, I shan't mention any names, but you know what I mean. There's not So they say, look, we're not going to pump tons and tons of money in here, and if we go back down, we go back down, and then we'll try to come back up. They want to consolidate, make the club something that survives. Because, as I mentioned, a lot of clubs are on weak foundations. Well, the thing I'm really pleased about is that Wycombe Wanderers foundations are solid and will remain so, and that's really important.
And at the moment, Wycombe do sit in the relegation zone, unfortunately, 23rd with 11 points. However, like we said, there's been a lot of heart, a lot of passion from the side. What is the expectation just to stay up this season and then build from there? Yeah,
I think that's the ambition for fans. Absolutely, just survival. It has been a very, very steep learning curve. No doubt about it. The standard of play between League One and the Championship is the difference is immense. And early days, I thought, oh gosh, we're going to get tonked every other week. Well, it only happened once against Blackburn Rovers, which was a bit unfortunate because it's Gareth Ainsworth's hometown. But apart from that, they've done all right. And once or twice, they should have had results, but for really bad refereeing. I mean, I was at the game against Norwich where A, we didn't get a penalty, and B, a free kick was awarded just outside the area, which wasn't one, and they scored in the dying minutes of the game. Against Watford, we had a winning goal chalked off, and in the game on Saturday, likewise, we had an equal. I said to my son, actually, the ref was so bad, I said, I bet you if we equalise now, they won't allow it. And lo and behold, ding, that's what happened. So I'd say 5 points at least have gone against us. Now, that's football.
Yeah.
But I think particularly this season, Wycombe have had, shall we say, bad luck, is the best way of putting it. And I'm hoping that will even itself out. So long as they keep their confidence and don't let their heads go down, it's still possible for them to do it. They've just still got to adapt their game. The good thing is they are giving other sides a game, without question. And they'll give Bournemouth a game. I mean, it's slightly daunting when you see Bournemouth's result from the other day. But hopefully you guys will be resting on your laurels and thinking you're going to get an easy time of it. And I can just say, well, yes, guys, you'll have an easy time of it. So have a few beers and a cigar before kickoff because you won't have to do that.
I don't think Jason will be too happy about that if they did that. But so, as you mentioned there, you've been giving teams a tough game. How do you expect Gareth Ainsworth to actually counter Bournemouth's quality that we've got both on and off the pitch that can come off the bench?
Well, I suppose it's different for every side that Wycombe play, and the tactics are different. And we have had a really, really solid defence, actually, difficult to break down. It's got a bit more complicated recently because of injuries. Anthony Stewart, who's sort of like the lion of the back four, is injured, and I'm not sure when he's going to be back because he's been absolutely immense. I think what has been the undoing of Wycombe has been actually not the way they play overall, but learning that individual mistakes are punished very hard in the championships. In the other lower leagues, you make a mistake, usually most of the time you probably get away with it. Not in the championship. I mean, we saw that the other day, and we've seen it in previous games. So I think he'll want to make sure that mistakes don't get made. I don't think they'll be overawed by playing Bournemouth. We used to play them all the time, really, but we played bigger sides like Bournemouth in the cup. I'll never forget the day we were 2-0 up against Tottenham in the FA Cup at half time. That was astonishing. So that's all fine, and that I think the players are used to the big time of the championship, if you like. It's just one or two players who are undoubtedly skilled don't have quite the pace that would be comfortable in the championship, and they need supporting. And once they work that out, it'll be okay.
You mentioned that performance against Tottenham. Wasn't that under Martin O'Neill?
No, that was under Gareth Ainsworth. It was.
Oh, sorry.
A few years ago. Yeah, there was a previous cup run when Wycombe got to the semi-final of the FA Cup under Laurie Sanchez, and we played Liverpool at Villa Park and lost 2-1. But the game against Tottenham, we were at White Hart Lane, 2-0 up at halftime. I remember thinking, I'm going to die because my heart rate is 110 sitting down. I cannot stand this excitement. I just can't bear it. And then we gave away two stupid goals. We were 3-2 up with 4 minutes to go. It was 3-3 in the 96th minute. They said 96 minutes, and they played 97. And Son, who I love and hate because he's such a beautiful player, but I hated him that day because he just pinged one in at the last second. And imagine the difference that would have made if we got a replay at Adams Park, £1 million in the bank.
Most
but
definitely.
Took them all away, and it was one of the most exciting games I've ever seen.
And Gareth Ainsworth has been, as you do mention, they haven't broke the bank, at Wycombe. He's made some sensible signings, and one player that jumps out to mind is Gareth McCleary.
Yeah.
Do tell us a bit more about his transfer business.
Yeah, well, it's on a very thin budget. It's like Gareth goes to the shops with a string bag and a pocket full of change and sees what he can get. I think Gareth McCleary came to us on a free. He'd been at Reading, so he'd been training with us, and he's a lovely player to watch. Actually, he really is, beautiful player, very talented. He gets the ball, you think, oh, something's on here, maybe. And there are other players like that. We've Dennis Adeniran is a young player who's on loan from Everton, and he's a young midfielder, a bit like Namdi, who can make things happen. Very smooth player, nice player to watch. We've got I've got to make sure I pronounce his name correctly. Tafazoli from Hull. He's been out because he's been injured. We've got Uche Ikpeazu, who's a big striker, 6'3". And we really have hardly seen anything of him at all, because it's one of those ironies where you sign a player and you're expecting big things from them, and then they don't turn up because they're injured. And he's really the man that we need to show up and play in place of Bayo, because Bayo has been playing a lot, and he's 38, and you can see, he gets tired, and he's hurting. And he really can't keep playing the number of games that he is. So we need Uche in the squad. So we've got some interesting players. Darryl Horgan as well, who we got from Hibs, the Irish international. He and Gareth McCleary both did a wonderful job together the other day. So the talent is there. Perhaps not as much striking talent as I would like to see, but they are still learning their way through the championship, and I'm just hoping we need to get some wins, need to get some more goals. It's difficult to score against Wycombe, but they're finding it's very hard to score goals themselves. We need to get over that and then start winning games.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, to be fair, with the amount of heart that Wycombe do have, I'm rooting for you guys to stay up. Maybe not maybe not tomorrow, but hopefully, fingers crossed, you will stay up as a team, because you've got a similar story to ourselves and what Eddie did, dragging us up on. Well, let's be fair, if Fletch hadn't scored that goal, we might not even exist as a football club.
Yeah.
And what Eddie did was fantastic, and I can see a lot of similarities between Eddie and Gareth Ainsworth. Do you think that could possibly happen if Wycombe can stay up? Can Gareth take you the next level?
What, to the Premiership?
Yeah, eventually.
Blimey, that is a dream. I mean, people say to me, do you have any ambitions left? And I say yes, because I do commentary for some Wycombe games sometimes. I have many times over the years. I say yes, my remaining ambition is to commentate on Wycombe playing in the Champions League final. So.
Love to be born there.
a long old way away. But I mean, stranger things have happened. You look at the sides that are all around us, have been up and down to the top. I mean, Luton, for instance, have been in the top division and then all the way back down out of the Football League and then back up in the Championship. A lot of the teams around us we used to play in the lower leagues, like Bournemouth, for instance, Cardiff, Reading, and so forth, Huddersfield. So it's a mobile league, if you like. I mean, I would be very surprised. I have to say, it's not really on our radar at the moment. What is on the radar is being able to stay up this season. I think it's a tall order still, and I think the bookies will have us favourites to go down. They had us favourites to go down last season as well, and look what happened. But things can turn around in football. As long as you're not too far adrift by Christmas, you can start climbing that table, and you never know what's going to happen. So we'll see. Maybe also a couple more changes get made during the transfer window. We'll see what happens. But we certainly have not. Obviously I've been following Wycombe for 20 years, but when I look back at other relegation seasons, relegation is a bit like you get a sniffle in October and it turns into a cold, and then it turns into flu, and then it turns into pneumonia, and then you're out by the spring.
Yeah.
There's degrees. I don't get that feeling this season. Might well happen, but I don't get that feeling, the same sort of illness that teams get where they're just not playing well enough or not good enough.
Bit of a prediction for tomorrow. How do you think it's going to go?
Well, I would never like to predict against my own side, so I'm going to say it'll be a draw. It'll be a draw. I think Bournemouth will be. I hope Bournemouth will be surprised. Let's call it 2-2.
2-2.
Only because I want to see Wycombe score more goals. But you never know. This is football. Anything can happen. But as I say, it's going to be an easy ride. Tell your boys, go out and have a few Big Macs and fries, milkshake, that sort of thing before the game, because they really don't have too much to worry about. And then we'll see what happens.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today, Bill. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
All the very best with Classic FM and whatever else you put your hand to.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Not a problem at all, Bill. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.